19 more, or the 25?
Where it says 25, you can see everybody that's on there.
Yeah, I can just see phone numbers only. Yeah, okay, I see everybody else. It's mainly our staff. And some numbers I don't know.
Board President Noble and others, if you go on that far right, you also see a chat button. And that chat will be a way that people could comment that they would like to talk. Now, the people on the phone don't have that option. And this goes to everybody. So it'll have a number next to the chat if you're not on that, saying that there's somebody that has a chat that's been posted. So you could use this for people to ask for an opportunity to speak. The board members, or it's also a way for you to.
Hello.
This is also recorded.
There's Lorraine.
Yeah.
Hello, Vice President Price. How are you?
Okay.
And Sarah Bose has texted that she's having some technical issues.
So if she calls Neil at 263-9451, he'll take care of that.
Well, the first time I called, they muted me, and I had to do something to unmute me. So, yeah.
Oh, Sarah just joined?
Maybe she may be having the same problem.
Oh, there she is. Sarah, are you there?
Sarah, if you're on by phone, *6 will take you off of mute.
Yeah, *6. Yeah, that's what they said, yes.
I'll just let you know that this is Rudy. I actually will be the meeting via telephone. Thank you.
Good to hear you.
I think I'm here.
There you are.
Okay.
She is.
Okay.
So Board President Noble, you have all 5 board members are present.
Okay, so I have to, of course, neglected to print the agenda, so I've got to pull it up on another device. But
No, he'll put it up. He's going to put it up for us.
Oh, okay.
But the first place we're going to, so go ahead and put it up now, Tom. But the first place we're going to start is with the roll call as per our general counsel's direction.
Yeah.
Just 1 second.
Are we there?
So I've got the title up, and now is the, do you want to do the roll call then?
Roll call first, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I guess I can call roll for the board. Board Member Bose.
Present.
Board Member Dr. Gonzalez.
Present.
Secretary Garcia.
Here via phone.
Excellent. And Vice President Price.
Here.
And I am also here as the board president. And for Vice President Price and Secretary Garcia, I don't know if you are looking at a computer. I'm guessing not on the phone, but
No, not.
Okay. I'll just try and do it all extra carefully verbally.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as the acknowledgement of tribal land. So you two will have to do this from memory. We will have the benefit of this on the screen. We ready for the pledge?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United
States of America.
and to the
republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
Under God.
indivisible,
Liberty.
with liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
So we might want to have everybody mute. We'll just have Ms. Noble go ahead and read it if you're comfortable with that, Ms. Noble. So if everybody would mute the phone because we're getting a lot of feedback.
It's kind of an interesting exercise to have everybody do it at once virtually.
Explain to me, how do I mute and then unmute?
Is it *7, Tom?
You know what? I would suggest we don't bother with that for Vice President Price. Vice President Price, maybe you just whisper as you pledge.
Okay.
Okay, now in Spanish. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Now the salute to the New Mexico flag. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo Zia de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. And now the acknowledgement of tribal land. We acknowledge the original people of the land, the Tesuque Pueblo people and other tribal nations, and ask them to walk with us today as we share and learn together. Okay.
Can you go back to the agenda, Tom?
We are on the approval of the agenda. One of the things, I think we're going to do an update a little bit later on compliance with the Open Meetings Act, but just to be clear, one of the recommendations is that on all votes, we do a roll call vote. So if we could have a motion to approve the agenda if there are no changes, and then we'll do a second, of course, and a roll call vote.
I move to approve the agenda. This is Sarah.
This is Lorraine. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Dr. Gonzalez? Sorry, I'm doing a roll call vote.
Unmute.
Oh,
On approval of the agenda. We have a motion and a second. Now we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Gonzalez? I don't know if she's muted. She was with us.
So you need to go down to the bottom of your screen and unmute if you're, I think she was on the video, right? She wasn't on the phone. If you're on the phone, what is it, Tom? Star?
Yeah, *6, and she's still muted. So star six, unmute your phone.
If you're on the phone, or you need to unmute your microphone on the bottom of your screen. She may not be able to see it right now, Tom, because of the agenda piece being in the front of there.
That's not on her device. That's only the.
Oh, okay. On the bottom of the screen, Carmen, you can hover over that button on the bottom over the microphone. It should show up.
We'll move on. I'll keep calling the roll and come back to Dr. Gonzalez. So, Board Member Bozé, this is on the approval of the agenda.
Aye.
Vice President Price?
aye.
Secretary Garcia? Rudy, are you there? Have you muted yourself? We can't hear. Oh, it says Rudy Garcia has left the meeting. Oh, there you are.
I don't know if you guys can see me, but I'll get back on. Thank you. But
Okay,
yes,
great.
I vote for approval.
All right. And Dr. Gonzalez?
President Noble, if Dr. Gonzalez put a text chat in, she could probably communicate also that way.
Good point.
I think Tom, that Josh said it has to be an oral vote to comply with Open Meetings Act. I can text her. You've got the votes for this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
but move on.
Yeah, you
Okay.
have a majority.
We do. Okay, and the president votes yes. So with 4 verbal votes, we have an approved agenda. Now we will move on to introduction of the interpreter.
So, Madam President, and David, are you on? David Carl?
Yes.
Can you give the phone number? So, voy a ser lo mejor que yo puedo. Esta noche vamos a tener el doctor Luján y el señor, oh goodness, my mute won't go off. I know where it is. So I'm sorry, we're hearing from Carmen that her mute will not go off. She can find it, but she can't make it toggle.
And can you give her the telephone number so she can call in and the PIN?
She can probably hear us. Carmen, just click on, or Tom, do you want to assist her in another way?
Yes. Dr. Gonzalez, you might want to log out and come back right in. That might fix your problem. It has fixed other problems. And she just left the meeting. So.
She left the meeting and she'll come back.
So, el señor Herman Martínez va a estar disponible a los dos para hacer intérpretes si alguien está escuchando que necesita un intérprete. Por favor, ahora mi asistente aquí está el número. Si necesitan, it just went away. Can we go back to that chat? Let me find it here. Sorry, everybody, but we're all doing the best we can. So, por favor, llamen a 1-315-992-6201. Cuando preguntan por el PIN number, por favor, pongan 477-845 y el pound sign, no sé cómo se dice en español. Ahí está el número presente en el screen, si lo quiere ver ahí. Y también este número estará disponible en nuestro sitio web, sfps.info. David, it is available on the website, right? David Carl, it is available on the website as well, correct? Yes.
He says yes.
I saw that now. All right. So, ahí está el número también en el screen. Otra vez, 1-315-992-6201. El PIN, 470-477-845 pound. Gracias.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like we have Dr. Gonzalez now in an unmuted form too, which is great. Dr. Gonzalez, can we just confirm you're there? I can see that she's not muted. Okay, you there? All right, we'll move on. And hope that she can vote in the future. Okay, we are now on the agenda on public forum. Dr. Ryan.
Board President Noble, David, you have the emails. Has anybody else emailed in for public comment?
No.
So there's no public comment for tonight.
Okay, great. And just so all of the board members are aware, we have been told that public forum is not necessarily a requirement in these meetings. There are obviously some technical challenges to moderating it. We've opted for a more low-tech version of it, which is giving people an email address to provide for public forum up until 4 o'clock. I believe David Carl was checking those emails for that. And the reason that I asked that we keep it on is just that I feel like there are some important things that we need to preserve, and the ability for the public to talk to us in board meetings and communicate is one that for now I am wanting to preserve and make sure that we have the ability to do that and at least keep that door open, even though it's not necessarily a requirement. It seems that in difficult crisis times, it's very easy to shut down some of the input mechanisms and democratic institutions, and we can do our part at the school board, I feel, in keeping this open. So I want to thank Dr. Garcia and Dr. Ryan and David Carl and everybody who's weighed in on this and has made it possible for us to at least hold that space on the agenda. And I also just want to say this has been, even in pulling together this meeting, obviously it's new for all of us. We're on a learning curve, and I just really want to thank everybody at the district who worked overtime to make this happen. I know you all have been doing so much for all of the operations, for making sure that we have food available to our Santa Fe Public School community. And there's really just been heroes work done again and again for the Santa Fe Public Schools and everybody on the team. So I just want to, before we go any further, say thank you. We are seeing how much you're all doing and truly appreciate it for the Santa Fe Public Schools and the larger community.
Thank you. On behalf of the team and everybody that makes the Santa Fe Public Schools run, thank you for that acknowledgement, President Noble.
Yes. Okay, we are on item number 4 on the agenda, updates. And I'll ask our General Counsel, Joshua Granata, to tell me if I get anything wrong, but just in looking at an email that was shared with all of us, that was based on another email that was shared with all of us, that's come out in terms of compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Thanks very much, Mr. Granata, for providing this. But the guidance says at the start of the meeting, the chair should announce the names of the members of the public entity participating remotely. We went through that with our roll call. It also says all members participating remotely must identify themselves whenever they speak and must be clearly audible to the members of the public and other members of the public entity. So Vice President Price and Board Member Bose have already done that when they've spoken. I noticed. I think we're all doing that. So we just remember that whenever you speak up again, I need to say this is Board President Noble, that sort of thing. It says the chairperson leading the meeting should suspend discussion if the audio or video is interrupted. I'm not sure how well I will know if it's interrupted. So Dr. Garcia, Dr. Ryan, I'll rely on you to tell me if anything happens and we need to suspend the meeting. All votes of the public entity should be by roll call. We're doing that. And the public entity should produce and maintain a recording of the open session of the meeting. And I'm sure, just want to double check that that is happening right now. Dr. Garcia or Dr. Ryan, can you confirm that we are producing and maintaining a recording of this meeting?
Board President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Garcia, I do have confirmation from Joseph Abeta that the streaming is on, and I think that member Garcia is using that as his vehicle.
We also have.
This is Vice President Price. Have we acknowledged Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes, but she has to. She's trying to get on, so she may call in. Dr. Ryan is helping her.
She's on.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. Okay.
Okay.
Just took getting off 3 times.
Can you get, this is Board Member Price again. Can you get her acknowledgement of the approval of the agenda?
So, Dr. Gonzalez, we can, I guess, get you to acknowledge. I think we've moved beyond that, but are you in agreement of approving the agenda?
I'm in agreement, yes.
Okay.
And I guess for the minutes, we just need to acknowledge that, well, I think it goes without saying, but just formally acknowledge that she is in attendance.
Yeah, I was just checking for purposes, yeah.
Yeah, and she was present for the roll call, which should be on our recording. Okay, and we do have at least a few members of the public joining us, watching the meeting that I can see. So that's nice. They're sort of the usual public, but you know, we do have folks with us, so that's great. Okay, Mr. Granata, did I miss anything on compliance with the Open Meetings Act?
Board President Noble, members of the board, no, I think that you covered it all. I think there's one other thing that we might want to mention. The fact that this meeting is virtual is because of the state of emergency, and the governor and this Department of Health, the most recent order requires that groups of 5 people, that's the limit of groups of people that can congregate. And so obviously with 5 board members, it would be impossible to have a regular board meeting. And so that's why we have to have the virtual meeting as we're doing today. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So
You're welcome.
there it is for the record. We're doing this because we can't get together at this stage. All right, moving on the agenda. We are on Roman numeral 4, updates, item B on district operations. Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I normally would have had a bit of a PowerPoint for you, but given our state of emergency, we are busy doing a number of things that I will not have formal presentations for you tonight, so I'll mainly be talking to you. I'm going to just highlight various departments, and then I will have them chime in as they are able. I'm going to start, well, first I want to let you know that over a month ago, the Santa Fe Public Schools started planning, and we developed a pandemic preparedness, planning, response, and recovery plan to be able to move all operations of the district remotely. Obviously, we can't remotely clean buildings, we can't remotely feed children, but other than that, we pretty much have everything now being done remotely. And it has served us well because we have not been scrambling to keep operations going. So I'm going to start with business services, and some of the highlights there is that we've been able to pay people remotely. We had people that still are on paper checks. Those were mailed out. We actually did a test on that before we were asked to close operations except for essential employees. I want my hats off to them for keeping the wheels on the bus rolling, keeping people paid, accounts payable, and meeting various contract requirements, responding to PED questions that we get, and providing appropriate information. I would imagine that we'll be having a virtual audit committee when it's time. But anything that you want to add, Herman?
No, not at this time.
Okay, and so thank you and your team. You've all done a really great job. I'd like to go now to, let's just go to IT, instructional technology, or information technology, but in a lot of ways it's instructional technology. Dr. Ryan and Dr. Neil Weaver and his team have collaborated with CNI. They've done an excellent job in being the backbone of standing up a remote learning program that we will be we'll have our pilot launch beginning on Monday. But not only did they have to do that, for us to be able to operate remotely requires a tremendous amount of coordination, whether we're moving phones and forwarding phones, and to be able to get people the devices and the appropriate hookups to be able to function remotely. They've done an amazing job with that. And implementing best practices based on the personal and professional experiences of people on that team to getting devices out. Really an amazing effort. Dr. Ryan, would you like to add anything?
Well, I'd just like to say, Dr. Garcia and members of the board, that it was because of the community's investment in things like ETN that we have the technology available to offer every child a device and be able to operate the school district where kids can still get their teaching and learning in an online format or a remote format. And I want to assure the board that we've got our business systems connected through secure lines so that they can access the resources they need. And I'm very proud of the tremendous work, not only by the partnerships with teaching and learning and business, etc., but our staff are all essential and have to go out to sites. The grab and goes that we've done with the community, people have volunteered to be a part of that and have really done a phenomenal job in trying to make sure all of our users, whether they're staff, teachers, or students, are connected and going. So I'm very, very proud of them.
So I thank you and your team for your leadership. I know people have been working tirelessly to make this happen. I'd like to go to the curriculum and instruction team that have been working side by side. Tom's team, Deputy Superintendent Sink, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Would you like to just chime in high level? Some of the
Sure.
each department could actually talk to you for at least an hour if we told you all that they were doing, but just high level, Linda, please.
Some of the highlights is curriculum and instruction, but also along with the special ed department and the wellness department have created teacher resources, not only for teachers, but also for the parents. We have the ones for the parents online now, including wellness resources. That's even a separate document that gives them some ideas of who they can call for different situations, but also things they can do at home with their kids. So we have been working very closely with the technology department on how to provide those resources on the platform, and so it's been an exciting couple of weeks.
And that's a positive spin on that because they've just been working like crazy people, and I know you're all exhausted, and you wouldn't know it by that wonderful smile and positive attitude, but they have worked like dogs working on this because they really care. And I want to let our public know that there is so much that goes to getting this done. Training of principals that happened this week, training of our teachers, working with the counselors. Sue O'Brien met with counselors. We want to address the social and emotional needs of our students. We also want to address the, ensuring that kids continue to make progress. But I want the public to understand that it's not school as we know it. It's not, we can't expect teachers or children to be in front of a device all day, and nor will they be. But they will be connecting with children. They'll be getting high quality activities. Every school will have a slightly different schedule depending on how they're going to be delivering their programming. We will be getting more specific guidance from the public education department, but I feel that we will have to tweak our program very little, again, thanks to the leadership of our teams. I can't even begin to tell you the level of detail that has to be addressed to make a program like this work. I want to thank our principals and our teachers and school staffs for their flexibility. And one of the skills that we talk about is adaptability. We're all being required to adapt, just like you are right now, adapting to this meeting, right, and learning new skills. And it's the same for our students. And so it'll be a little frustrating. We are still collecting information, and we will again next week, about what families do not have internet access. Maybe they still don't have their device. Are we going to have to provide learning packets? And so we just ask everyone to take a deep breath with us and know that it's going to be bumpy for a while, but together we're all going to figure it out. I know that there are questions around graduation and credits, and we'll have more information about that, I believe, probably by tomorrow. But I do want to say that let's just say we are closed. We are committed to ensuring that our kids do have a graduation, do get to have a prom, even if it's in October, if it's in July. We do need people to mute. Please mute if you're not speaking. We need people to mute if they're not speaking. Thank you. There you go. Thank you so much. All right. So, we're going to make sure those are important milestones in every high school senior's life, right? Prom for some kids, but for sure graduation. And so we will ensure that in some way that will happen for them, not virtually, but at a later date. A lot more will be coming to you about that and to our community. We'll be issuing another robocall tomorrow to let our parents know that they will be receiving information from their children's schools or their child's school about their schedule based on public education department guidance that things may change. For next week may not look like the entire program, right? We may have more enrichment. We'll be adding more to the program, music or art, if it doesn't start off right in the beginning. Later on, we'll be adding after-school programming and whatnot. But Kate, I can see you, but it says you left the meeting. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And but anyway, we next week, our goal for the next 2 weeks really is for our teachers and our students to get used to teaching and learning in a whole different way, in a very simple way. It's going to be a very pared down version. So know
Can I
that.
ask a question? Can I ask a question? This is Carmen. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Gonzalez.
Okay. Madam President, Dr. Garcia. So does this start next week or the 6th?
Monday,
Monday.
the 23rd.
We don't know yet how many students do not have access to the internet?
We have a rough idea that possibly 10%, but that number is changing. But we have purchased hotspots. We can also have students just download content when they go to the grab and go. We have our schools will be reaching out to families and to get a better handle on that. We still have about, Tom, wasn't it 500 students that had still not picked up their devices? And so with some students, depending on where they live out in Madrid, they may not have broadband. So even if I had internet service, that might not help them. So they may have to do more conference calling, or if they're, we may have to provide packets for special education. We will have to work creatively to be able to meet the needs of our students. And so everything that we're doing is in compliance with new revised federal and state guidelines for addressing free and appropriate public education for special education students. We are doing everything we can to address equity.
This is Lorraine. May I ask a question?
Go ahead, Vice President Price.
I've been getting calls from people who do have internet access, but whose children are seeming to have problems getting online.
We have not started, Board President Noble, Vice President Price, members of the board, we have not started our program yet. So
it's just frustration. Okay.
I mean, it just may be that they may want to check their internet provider.
Okay.
Board President, this is Rudy. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Rudy.
What happens to the individuals that do not have internet, and do we have some sort of because they have a learning curve? We actually I do have a big, huge learning curve when it comes to this type of learning. Do we have some sort of resources to go teach kids and/or parents how to get online, how a laptop works?
Vice Board Secretary Garcia, members of the board, we are not allowed to have face-to-face contact. That was made very clear. We can only have face-to-face, and we have to practice social distancing with the food delivery. So we cannot send anybody to the home. We can guide people over the phone. We can guide people, through the school, but it really has to be virtual. We cannot meet with people face-to-face around devices, around any issue, quite frankly.
I appreciate that. And then just since I have the floor, I don't forget to let us know about this, but have you had contact with PED, and do we know what the governor's planning on doing Is she going to go past the 6? Does anybody know that?
Mr. Secretary Garcia, members of the board. We had a conference call today where there was a lot of advanced planning going on, where we were told that it appears that we may go, that the closure may exceed what was originally recommended. If you recall, we were off, well, I'm not going to go over all of that. Let me just say this. Nothing is official until the governor makes an announcement. Our understanding is that it's expected that the governor will make an announcement. I do not know that for a fact. So we'll have to wait to see what happens tomorrow. But reading the tea leaves, it looks like it's probably going to happen that we will be in this mode for the rest of the year. Keep in mind that our planning was more for a 2-week process, but we have laid a very strong infrastructure that I believe will be able to really build on what we have done thus far. And we're ahead of a lot of districts.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And your team as well.
You're welcome. So back to CNI, I think we will end. We're addressing special ed, English language learners, etc. We have to, look at the whole gamut. I'd like to go over to general services. Right now, Deputy Superintendent Christy Wagner is attending a meeting for me virtually with the mayor. There's a group from the city that are working on feeding young people and feeding our community. And right now I'm going to, I just want to say, first of all, talk, also heroic efforts, the food services, the maintenance department, Gabe Romero, Marissa Bonifer, Elizabeth Cole, their team of workers, they have also day in and day out been out, on the line as essential employees helping with food distribution. Particularly, I just want to point out, and a big shout out and thank you, they worked during spring break to get food from the National Guard to be able to provide that food. We got our shipment at 10 o'clock at night. They had to take it to points of distribution. They were working into the wee hours of the morning and then back early again for distribution. It's just really been amazing. I also want to thank our unions, both of them, President David O'Gean and President Grace Mayer. They've just been awesome in working with us to come up with reasonable schedules and whatnot. But it's really been something. I have been a bit concerned that the food distribution has hovered around 1,000 students a day, where we normally feed closer to 10,000 a day. And so it is perplexing, where or why they're not coming to get food. And so we'll have to dig into that more when school starts, where counselors and teachers can make better contact with children. We've done our best to communicate about that in English and Spanish. And then we have to limit access to our schools. It's been difficult, I know, for teachers to be able to be allowed to come back in and have a schedule for that, to get materials that they may want. It's a trick to limit it to 5 people and at a time. So I just want to thank everybody for their planning. Again, there are just a myriad of details to attend to. Gabe Romero, Executive Director for General Services, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. I think you covered it very well. I did want to add, though, that inclusive of those great efforts from our student nutrition staff, maintenance service staff, and our custodians, we are working hard to keep our contracts and projects on schedule and moving forward with that. So great job by our project managers, virtually doing the work that they need to do to keep some of our projects on schedule and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romero, for your hard work and your team and their leadership. And then I would.
This is Board Member Price.
Go ahead.
Dr. Garcia, what are we doing to address the gap between the number of students who get free and reduced breakfast and lunch and the gap between how many are picking it up?
Madam President, Vice President Price, as I said earlier, now that our kids come back to school, it is my hope that as the teachers connect with them, that they will remind them that they can get grab-and-go bags. I know that some families have been concerned about having their children come and having them exposed. And so we are still expecting personal protective equipment that should be coming to the workers. They do their best to keep the windows down, right, and just enough space to hand the meal. With that said, I understand that there are going to be new guidance coming forth that will allow one member of the family to come and pick up meals for their children and not have to actually have the kids in the car. I have heard that some parents are concerned about bringing their children to the site. So until we can get and we've sent robos out about it, but until we can have kids connected to their school sites, which will begin on Monday, I think that'll give us a better opportunity to be able to communicate with families personally about that those grab-and-go sites are available. We are not providing instruction between 10:30 and 12:30 to ensure that students can go and pick up the 2 meals a day.
And as I understand, you're doing both meals in one serving.
That is correct. And some school districts are going to once a week pickup. We may want to consider modifying that because that might make it easier for families where they don't have to expend gas and have to get out of the home every single day.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, Dr. Garcia, what about parents who are working or, and their kids are too young to drive to come pick up their food?
I mean, those are challenges that we're all facing and trying to figure out, whether or not we can do drop-offs with the buses. Our first order of business was just to get the points of distribution up and running. We are collaborating with other organizations that are pushing food out. However, our meals that we get from the U.S. Department of Ed have to be distributed in a certain way. So there's certain considerations. Right now, as I said, Deputy Superintendent Wagner is at a meeting trying to work on those coordination efforts.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, I have a question.
Go ahead, Secretary Garcia.
Thank you for the other board members for bringing that up, because I had a couple of calls that some kids can't get to the site. So, but we are looking into that, so I appreciate that. Maybe if we can go centralized, especially in the Tierra Contenta neighborhood off of Airport Road here, if we can somehow figure out I don't know how, I'm sure you'll work it out, but how we can just go in a remote place and, drop off 10, 15 meals or whatnot if the parents can't get there. But you're working on it. And then also, just a really quick question in regards to, and I just thought about this a little while ago, is how are we going to gauge individual students, especially younger students, and to determine, sometimes you have kids that are very, very quiet and very, very shy. How are we going to engage? How are we going to gauge whether they're actually learning if they have to learn from home? Do we know yet?
I mean, the teachers are going to be the best contact and resource for that, to be able to, ensure that children are interacting. They're supposed to have office hours in the afternoons so that they can make individual calls to families and to connect with children. Also, if it seems like a child is experiencing undue anxiety or stress, we want the counselors to be making personal contact with those children and families. I do want to say that every day we're having a call-in at 4 o'clock with our principals to gauge what didn't work well, what concerns they have. And I also communicate with them I lost my train of thought because I just saw a chat, but how we can communicate and better connect with families. I think once we connect them with the school, we're going to have a better understanding. Teachers and people, I just saw an idea here, have very noble intent, but we are somewhat limited in terms of not having contact, except for at those points of distribution. So we'll have to work with the public education department. They'll have to work with the Department of Health because they're really working to minimize community spread. We have had teachers to be willing to put packets outside their door for people to pick up, like instructional materials, or to have them at certain drop-off sites. It's, as you understand now, they're trying to get us personal protective equipment to give out the meals. So we are somewhat constricted in the governor's mandate, right, to minimize community spread right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, so I guess I could continue going, right?
Please.
So, sorry, it's been we've been going constantly since before spring break, and it doesn't take much to get me off of focus right now. So anything else for General Services Department, or Gabe, anything else you want to say, Mr. Romero?
No, thank you, Dr. Garcia.
I'd like to go to safety and security.
Actually, before we go off of that, this is Kate Noble. I want to acknowledge that a lot of this was said, but the staff worked during spring break. Everybody was going to have a week off and then suddenly didn't have a week off, and ramped up the food distribution first of all. And what Dr. Garcia mentioned, that the delivery came in at 10 o'clock at night. I'm pretty sure it was 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday when everything was being connected then. So it's just been a Herculean effort. It's really heroic stuff. In my day job around early childhood, I have also been engaged in some of the conversations and around some of the topics that have come up here. What about transportation? We've heard a lot of that people are, because a huge number of people have been laid off in Santa Fe, concerned about the price of gas. So it would be good if there can be even more consolidated distribution, I suppose, once a week, or if we can in any way get to providing it.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? Distribution of what?
More consolidated distribution, in other words, so that families wouldn't have to go every day and use gas, because gas expense is a concern, particularly when a lot of people have seen their incomes cut or eliminated.
Okay, I got you. I just didn't hear you. Okay.
Unemployment benefits are taking some time, I understand, to get approved, and unemployment checks are taking some time to start flowing. So we have a lot of need in the community. And one thing that occurred to me, Dr. Garcia, and I don't think I can actually say enough of how much I appreciate the hard work that you and the team have been doing. I know a lot of the focus has shifted because the food operation is working and being fine-tuned to how things get up and running on Monday with the remote learning and with the communications. And teachers, it's clear, will be incredibly important, because that's who the students know, that's who they have contact with. And I would encourage all of us to recognize that this will be imperfect. And just as even the food distribution is being fine-tuned and getting better, and perhaps we can meet more and more needs and coordinate with other resources in the community, that the instruction will be the same thing. It will be imperfect, and it will get better. Every individual teacher will learn things on day 1 and day 2 and day 3, and will get better. But I guess my point and my question...
President Noble, did you really think we didn't understand that?
No, I didn't necessarily, but I think it is important to say out loud.
Okay.
And sometimes I think that is our role as the board and sort of the people who work directly for the community to say, because I think that there is likely to be some frustration, whether it's with the technology, with internet access, whatever it is. I think as board members, we're likely to hear more in the next week. And it's important that we can say, this will be, and Dr. Garcia's communications have been very, very good, but this will be imperfect, and we've got to have patience and kindness and learn together as a community. And
I just hope you understand that all the school board members understand that.
I would guess so. I have learned not to make assumptions about what people.
This is not a guess. We're good people. We understand. I'm sorry. I've been housebound for weeks here, so I'm a little short-tempered. Excuse me.
Okay, and I would hope that you would, give me the courtesy of being able to.
I give you all courtesy. You know that.
Okay, thank you. Anyway,
I just don't want to be lectured to.
Okay. If I may continue.
Of course, you're the president.
So this is an exercise that, we can share and learn together and hopefully have patience with each other, because lots of people are homebound and are even feeling a little bit short-tempered. So, it is what it is. And I appreciate what's been going on and that we are still iterating and improving on the food distribution, that we are listening in the community to fill some of these gaps and understand the issues.
President,
Price, if I can get to what I'm trying to say, it's sort of difficult.
Would you please?
I'm trying to get there. You've interrupted quite a few times, which makes it a bit more difficult.
Oh, it's my fault. Okay.
All right.
Go on.
All right. What I have seen the need for is a greater coordination and centralization. There are actually a lot of resources out there in the community. The Santa Fe Public Schools are the big presence in terms of where obviously children and families are looking for. And ultimately, Dr. Garcia, I'm wondering, because I know how hard you and your staff have been working, if there is a need and some flexibility, and even to offer at least my willingness to consider if there's a need for additional coordination and, some contract work for people who could do some of this in the community. And, because the immediate needs have to be met and you have a lot of requirements, but as a sort of central authority, if we can do more in terms of coordinating community resources, I think that would be a good idea.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you for that. And you're spot on in terms of that piece. We've had so many wonderful partners reach out to us, from Meow Wolf to, the George O'Keeffe Museum. I could just go on and on. I don't want to start naming all of them, Girls Inc., et cetera, Cooking with Kids, NDI. People want to coordinate and partner with us. And what I've asked people is to give us a couple of weeks to get our, get grounded in terms of delivering, a basic program that we want to scale up. But I have to tell you that too, we're not set up to be a distance learning school district or a distance learning or a remote learning academy. And so our people are working really, night and day to try to provide the best support to our teachers and our principals to make this work. And it would be terrific if we could have, and I can bring back to the board, some resources allocated to contract services to have someone help us coordinate a lot of these people who want to work with us, because we don't want to push them away. We're very grateful for their support, but it's going to take a tremendous amount of coordination to make that happen. So I appreciate your recognition of that. I also want to say that what part of our training with the teachers and the principals, and I just want to share that with the board, and if you would like us to at any point have like maybe not like a retreat, but a study session just around the change process and dealing with it in a time of like a pandemic. You know, we're dealing with unprecedented time, right? We haven't experienced anything like this in our lifetime, and it is quite taxing for all of us. And emotionally, it is very difficult. The stress, and particularly for our children, right, to be able to learn and engage under these stressful conditions. And so we want to really stress that we want to be kind and gentle with ourselves, kind and gentle with the kids, and recognize that you know, it's just these are really difficult times for all of us. Would you like me to go on to the other departments, Ms. Noble?
Please do.
Thank you. And by the way, when we come back on April 7th, we will ask how we can move some money to be able to address this need, if that's okay with the board and you. I would like to go to safety and security. Mario Salvidres and his team are working to make sure that our buildings are safe and to help in special situations. And, you know, the other thing is that we're all responding to requests from the Public Education Department or other entities within the city and the county as well. Mr. Salvidres, anything you'd like to add, sir?
President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Garcia, superintendent, we did a few different things. We went and employed the most amount of security guards that we could, placed them permanently at the food distribution sites, but then also have them rotating around different district schools and buildings so that we have a presence during this period of time that they're closed. In addition to that, we requested the lighting, the signals, the school zones, the lighting to be adjusted at these food distribution sites from 10:15 to 12:45. In case we have families that don't have vehicles or there's children whose parents are still working and wish to go pick up some food. So we have those flashing lights going on during that period of time at those food distribution sites. And in addition, we also adjusted our crossing guards to staff the sites near those food distribution sites. So the kids, if they do arrive, they have a safe route to get to the school, pick up their lunch and go back home. And myself, Mark, and Maggie are making periodic visits to the schools that are closed and sites to make sure everything's okay.
Thank you. Any questions on safety and security? I would like to go on to our social emotional and addressing those needs, whether it's Adelante, Crystal Ibarra, and coordinating some social work. Sue O'Brien from Student Wellness, would you like to highlight anything from your department, please? Is Sue on, Tom? Sue may not be on. I could go on and check. They have worked with the counselors and providing protocols for them to be able to interact with our students. And so I want to thank them for their efforts as well, and also in communicating with the Department of Health. Ms. Lucero, are you still on, Julie?
Yes, Dr. Garcia, I'm still on.
Would you like to add anything around the provision of special education services as an ancillary and making sure that parents are aware that, you know, we'll continue with IEPs and ensuring that we do meet their needs. If they look different, but that we meet their needs. Can you go ahead with that, please?
Yes, so what has been working on, and we are really working on preventing regression and focusing on critical skills. And we are in our first week of pilot are going to attempt to reach every single student. We still will comply with IEPs and communicate with our parents, you know, as often as frequently as we can so that they understand how we can support them with their students. I have ancillary on board. We meet weekly. Staff members. So it's been a very great effort, and you know, we will continue to reevaluate as day by day to see how we can tweak and meet our students' needs.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions for Julie Lucero? I want to.
Madam President, Dr. Garcia, this is Carmen. So do the students have assistive technologies that they can use, special ed students? Like if they can't read, is it an audio thing? Is there, you know?
So all of our students do have devices, and there are several different apps to add on for accommodations for our students with disabilities. We also have a plan for those students that can't access the device themselves, working through parents, through video. We have a multitude of approaches that we are going to attempt to implement next week. Again, we have a lead for every group. For example, I have a lead for my autism specific classrooms so that we're narrowing in a little bit more with our service. So we are trying to reach every single student, depending whether they have communication restrictions, whether, you know, physical restrictions, whatever that may be. And we are also continuing our virtual homebound visits with students or with parents. So there's just a wide range. We're trying to be as open-minded as we possibly can so that we can reach our students.
And according to the new federal guidance, they have really relaxed the requirements in terms of recognizing the conditions that we're operating in, and that we make our best effort to do right by our students. But this is just a whole different environment that we're in right now, and we appreciate that flexibility, but we are committed to doing the very best we can for all of our students. Is there any other department that, I want to talk about community engagement for a second. You know, Sabra working with the volunteers and ensuring that we call on them as we can. We had to stop before school started on-site participation by volunteers. That was a requirement by the public education department, again, to try to minimize community spread, and many of our volunteers are over the age of 60. We also, I want to thank, well, I don't want to start naming everybody, but Krista Libata has been very helpful in coordinating with the community and working with our various partners to provide the needs of our families. I want to also give a shout out to David Carl. 2 weekends in a row, we have worked side by side, and his team, it's David in terms of the videos and posting on the website, Cody Donarski, but David in various creative and intellectual pursuits. Give them something to look forward to. They don't have athletics. They can't be in clubs. They can't be in plays, right? They don't get to do a whole lot. And so having these prizes and being able to enter, and we'll have drawings on a regular basis. They can enter more than once in a variety of areas. But I want to thank his team for helping me with that. And I want to thank the board for all of you contributing. And I really appreciate that you as a board member it's been 100% participation by the board. So thank you so much. And we still want to continue to fundraise with that. One other department that I didn't call on, and I want to thank them for keeping things rocking and rolling, and that's human resources. Howard Exner, would you like to share a few comments, please?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Garcia. President Noble, members of the board, and Dr. Garcia. The Human Resources team I'm super proud of for continuing to get the job done through electronic means. We're a department that generally has to deal with a lot of paperwork and live signatures, so there's a lot of workarounds involved. We're continuing to employ our long-term subs as virtual teachers. Our daily subs can qualify for unemployment insurance benefits, so we're working with them to get them through the Department of Workforce Solutions to make that happen. Our district does have a sick leave bank that employees can join, typically only upon hire and during the September open enrollment period. So we opened a special window and have 60 employees enroll as new members. Our recruiting team actually participated in a virtual job fair sponsored by the Big 12 yesterday, and we offer out there to a prospective teacher, hopefully for next year. And the specialist team continues to work with principals, giving them a list of their late hires, their level 1 team alternative licensures to support the principals in developing their staffing for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Exner. Madam President, at this point, I think unless there's a department that I missed, can give it a little wait time. So
on HR, this is Kate Noble again. On HR, I shared this thought with Dr. Garcia, but given the many, many layoffs in Santa Fe, I do think, and I appreciate how much there's been to stabilize and understand who we can pay and what the PED requirements are. But I do think there's an opportunity for recruitment as we can get to looking for the longer term. Not only have a lot of people been laid off in Santa Fe who in restaurant or bar jobs in particular might consider teaching, but I think lots of people are having sort of existential moments. And of course, teaching and working for the public schools is a meaningful profession. There's also the benefit of that we have healthcare benefits, which many of these folks I've talked to just anecdotally are having real crises in their lives about not having healthcare and that sort of thing. So I think we have an opportunity, and I hope we're looking towards the medium to longer term picture, because this may be a chance to recruit new teachers and let people know that not only can they enter into meaningful jobs with healthcare, but that this is a way to potentially save the world, that sort of thing. So
you're absolutely right, and we'll capitalize on that. And I want to thank you and your team also for the great work. Is there any other department, major department that I've missed? I just want to tell you that we have the most amazing team all the way through, you know, from every position. People are just so willing to pitch in, whether it's to help, you know, because we were getting ready for this transition. Everyone, just stellar. We have an amazing family of workers in the Santa Fe Public Schools. And for those, you know, to President Noble's point, it's meaningful work, it's legacy work. You touch lives in ways that you have no idea can make a difference in people's futures and their quality of life. But it's just a great team to work with. We really are a family, and I really love working in the Santa Fe Public Schools and talk to people. This is a great district to work with, and I hope that you'll consider joining our team. So thank you, Ms. Noble, for that shout out, right, for the district, for people to consider that it is meaningful work. And every day for me, I think you feel like it's a vocation. It's really not a job. So with that, we conclude for our end, district operations. Any other questions we'd be happy to address.
great, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board on the operations? That was obviously a thumbnail sketch of a huge amount of work that has been around the clock just about from the district.
Thank you. So we're done with that part, unless you have any questions.
Sounds like there are no questions from the board. Thank you very much for that. And again, thank you so much to all the staff I know. And I hope everybody is taking care of themselves, because I know this has been a huge amount of work and it's had a great deal of urgency for it and behind it, and may continue. And I hope that everybody is remembering to stop working, drink water.
As you remind me,
I've taken to texting Dr. Garcia, stop working, drink water.
Stop working, drink water. But you know, I want to say to our families and for our teachers, and working from home is hard. It's harder than working from the office. It really is hard. And it's hard on you physically, because we're not used to just sitting in front of computers and being on Zooms and being on calls. And with people working from home, I think the expectation, people need more support, a lot more questions, and it's going to be hard for teachers because many of them are managing, they have children at home and families. They may have someone who is ill, and so it is really hard. And so please recognize that, families, that your teachers are also have their own children sometimes at home that they also have to support and try to teach. And so this is just a whole brand new environment. It's not like people took a job knowing they were going to be working from home and would have made arrangements, right? This just got thrown on everyone. So, you might hear a dog barking in the middle of a lesson or a child crying or somebody might have to run to the stove. Life just happens when you're working at home. The other day, David's dog and my dog were barking at each other. So, it's just weird things that happen. So let's just all be gentle with each other.
Yes, thank you for that. And I know Board Member Bose and I, we've communicated a little bit about what it's like working from home with children around. It's really hard. And parents are feeling stressed and stretched, and none of us are good at this yet. Okay, moving on to Roman numeral 5 on our agenda. The discussion of the resolution. And originally this was going to be it's still the subject really of this study session, though it seemed as if the district operations update would take up an important part of the meeting, which I think it has. But ultimately, Dr. Garcia, I don't know if you want to lead off. I can share my thoughts, which is that we are now in really uncharted territory and are actually reinventing the Santa Fe public schools in incredibly profound ways and in the urgency of a crisis that we didn't anticipate. So I think we have an updated approach to how we reinvent and reimagine the Santa Fe public schools. Dr. Garcia, do you want to comment?
Sure. I'm going to comment by just sharing a little story. I don't know if any of you caught the Reverend Al Sharpton on MSNBC, where he was talking about the civil rights days and about when they'd get thrown in jail, and they would say they turned the concept around: don't serve your time, let time serve you. And so when they were in jail, they would use that time to reflect on their lives, to better connect with their families, to be thinking about how they might pursue their education, what their next steps were going to be, perhaps educating themselves, reflecting, writing. And I think about this, in the same manner, in that we're all like sort of serving time in a whole different kind of situation. But there's a lot that we can learn from this that I think can serve us in the future. And I think that what we're learning already is that by using some of these tools, it may enhance how we do things, and also how we might be able to address equity in a very creative way. This may enhance our reinvention efforts. And so what I want to say, just my opinion, my observation in just this little bit of time, that we are going to come out of this very changed in terms of our approach on how we can work in different ways, in more cost-effective ways that may allow us to address equity in a way that we really hadn't thought about before. And so what I wanted us to be able to do as in terms of us as a leadership team and as teachers and all of us working in the schools is to see what we've learned from these experiences that can help us along our path to reinvention, and how we can better address equity through the very many things that we're learning. And I'll give you an example, as we look at tutoring and how can we reach kids and do this in a cost-effective way, after school tutoring or after school enrichment, or that we couldn't always get kids, we didn't have busing. But wouldn't it be great if we figure out the internet access and kids could have dance or singing or art classes or music classes or whatnot, using a whole different mode, which would be more cost effective and be able to address equity in different ways. And that's just one idea. I mean, there's going to be a lot that's going to come out of this that we had not thought about. An example, I was able to meet, I would say, with half the faculty of teaching, faculty. And I usually only get to be around teachers, in a group at the back to school bash, or if I personally go to a school. But there are effective ways where we could bring, schools together, like two different schools together, or do better articulation and alignment, and do it in a cost-effective way through the tools that we're learning to use now. So I think so much is going to come out of this. We're going to learn a lot, and I want to keep communicating with the board about this. We're in such uncharted waters right now. We don't know where we're going to wind up at the end of the year. And so what our commitment to you is to keep our eye on what we learn around reinvention that we might be able to apply as we move forward, and keeping our eye on the resolution and what you have asked us to look at. And we're going to have to put on the back burner some of our outreach. Maybe not. Maybe we can do outreach in a different way as we're moving forward. But keep you apprised. And hopefully you also, have been great about sharing your ideas. And as you go through this experience yourselves, listening to your constituents, it can be a feedback loop to us too, of ideas that may come to your mind around reinvention and equity.
Thoughts from the board on this? Or questions?
Madam President, this is Rudy. I'm okay with what the superintendent actually just laid out, but thank you.
I was speaking with my mute on. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Gonzalez.
I did, we were charged with selecting somebody that would represent us on this committee. And I did invite the person that is going to represent me. So I don't know how are we going to continue with this? Are we going to need those people? How is this going to work moving on? I realize that we're in a whole different thing, and we may need to change things. So I just would like to know for the person that I invited on today.
Dr. Garcia, do you want to address that? I have thoughts, but I think that you probably have a better sense of the timing and process, even though that's all somewhat up in the air still.
Thank you, President Noble, members of the board. None of us have a crystal ball as to how this year is going to play out. And right now, our priority, and as I told you, we are really stretched thin, because it's really something to run a district in this remote way. And with the new things that we are being required to do. So I would ask your indulgence to let us see how things progress over the next 30 days. And then we'll have a better sense. Okay, now we can devote some energy to maybe having virtual meetings with the advisory group. I mean, we still have to start with board commitments and all of that piece, right? That we didn't get, that we would have done today had we not had this pandemic crisis that we're dealing with and the response. So back to Maslow's hierarchy of need. It's hard for us to be thinking of reinvention and engaging the community and working with the steering committee and launching that when we're trying just to stand up a remote learning program for our students and provide the full spectrum of support to our kids, addressing their social emotional needs, supporting our teachers and whatnot. So I would just think, let's revisit in 30 days, see where we're at. I think the staff can give me recommendations. I will listen to what you all think, and then we'll proceed from there. But for right now, our priority has to be standing up this remote learning program.
Well, I agree. Thank you very much. I just wanted to get some clarity on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Sarah Bose, President Noble, Superintendent Garcia, members of the board. I had a couple thoughts that have been going through my head, especially about this equity project, but also with everything else that we've had to deal with in the last month. And that is something that Superintendent Garcia has been saying in regards to this project, which is the idea that out of lots of chaos, we can find order. And so I think that that's really interesting then, that in the last month since our last study session, we've been thrown into chaos, and we're going to find some really interesting things that shake out here. So I definitely think that there will be things that will be useful and guiding in this next project that we'll embark on as things settle down a little bit. And also something that I think that Board President Noble says a lot, which is, everything's impossible until you do it. And we're seeing that firsthand also. And if anything, that should be very inspiring to, again, as we embark on this, that we all have done impossible things already in the last 2 weeks, and we'll continue to do that as we embark on this project. And it's such a pleasure to see this, even though we're in a crisis situation now, that there are wonderful things that are going to come out of this that will help all of us and the students and the faculty and the staff in our communities. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And this is Kate Noble. I am also spending time reading what other districts and schools are doing. So we will learn from our own experiences, from listening deeply in our community, and we can also look to the national scene because everybody's doing this. I mean, maybe not everybody, but I think many school districts have closed operations, are moving online, and figuring out different ways to engage. So we will have a lot of material. We know, and I would say, looking at the schedule, we're not on advanced planning yet, but we have a study session set for April 30th. So that is a little more than 30 days, but ideally, let's be sure to revisit this discussion, think about the steering committee in particular. I also approached somebody, Dr. Gonzalez, to represent me on that, and I'll be sure to communicate with her about what's going on. And, with any luck, we can engage our community actively as partners in this exercise that we are embarking on, really with the instruction beginning on Monday, and have the open listening, the deep listening, the continual process improvement, and we will have a lot of tools that we probably couldn't have even imagined before this whole thing began. And again, Dr. Garcia, I would say, we had identified one-time funding that was being proposed to fund the engagement process. And, if you and your team see ways that one-time funding can be used in service of the goals of this resolution, enhancing equity, and really reimagining education. I appreciated that was part of your communication that said, I need everybody to stop thinking about school the way you've always thought about school, from 8 to 3, because we are going to have to engage parents, families, community partners in new ways. And, now we learn by doing. So I think it's something that board members will keep in mind, and I know you and your team will keep in mind, and just want to be very intentional about actively identifying these things and bringing them forward so that we can take the building blocks of what we learned and hopefully remake the district in a better way for the future.
Thank you. Madam President. I do want to say something that I forgot, and I hope Edmond is still on. It's related to this, but when you mentioned, it just triggered that for me when you mentioned the study session, and I can't see that part of the agenda where it talks about advanced planning, but if I may, I don't want to mess up your train of thought if people want to continue on this discussion, but there is something really important that I do want to share with you. Our finance subcommittee is scheduled for April 16th. Is that the next one, Ms. Noble?
It is, yes, and it's on the screen now. Dr. Ryan, I think, pulled it up for us.
Yeah, I see it. Would it be okay if I asked Edmond, because we're not having spring budget workshop, just the latest high level, what we got on the budget, because it all relates to this and what we have to submit and do. Would that be all right with you? Or
Please.
would you rather wait until we finish with this discussion? It's okay with you?
It's okay with me, and I was just waiting to see if Vice President Price wanted to weigh in, and I think we heard from Secretary Garcia briefly. But no, sounds like we're good. Go ahead.
Our CFO, Herman Martinez, when do we have, did they change the budget submission dates, or do you have any new information that you think the board should be aware of as we look at the study session for April 16th?
Yes, Board President Noble, board members, Dr. Garcia, the submission date for Santa Fe Public Schools, we just received that, and they're looking at June, the first week of June for our submission. It was originally going to be the third week of May, but it got pushed back into the first week of June on that Wednesday. And so for right now, we still are pending as far as what the guidelines will be for some of the narratives or some of the requirements on the new budget submission, which we were anticipating we would be receiving during the spring budget conference. We have been told that some of that information will be provided directly through some portals, either through drives or different electronic formats, and perhaps some webinars as well, to provide some information on how to formulate the budget for this year. There was some communication from the PD, excuse me, as far as how to try and obtain some input from communities regarding their priorities, and also what they may see as far as budget needs for their students, and trying to do that in a remote platform, trying to do that digitally, and trying to do the best effort that we could. So they are allowing districts to have a little more flexibility in that, and trying to say that districts will still need to meet that compliance as far as obtaining community input in the budget, but at least they're not saying that it can't be tied to one specific input, that it can come from multiple methods. So reaching out to either specific PTOs, PTA groups, or perhaps just reaching out to specific communities that we already have those solidified inputs, that we can obtain some of their insight on what they're looking for as far as the needs for their students. Aside from that, we haven't really heard much else from the PED as far as budget development, and we're hoping to get more information in the next couple of weeks. But of course, the big factor is going to be the unit value, and we've heard just kind of some mixed messages as far as how they're planning to release that information to districts. So we're being pretty conservative right now as far as trying to plan out, but we do have already coordinated some potential ways to have our workshop session for the sites themselves to have their budget priorities provided, and then we still continue to have this this tentative schedule as far as having priorities from the board and then priorities from cabinet as well on the budget input.
Mr. Martinez.
This is Lorraine Price.
Go ahead, Vice President Price.
So the bottom line is that we don't know if deadlines have been pushed forward. Is that
Madam President, Vice President Price, I believe so, that we have it. We had an extra week or two, Edmond, to get the budget in, correct?
Yes,
but we can't. But in terms of the input, we have provided principals tools so that they can still have their SACs. They can have virtual SAC meetings. And so I think we can still maintain the process, but it will be virtual. I don't know yet about the requirement of the equity councils, if they're going to keep that in place or not as part of the budget process. So again, a lot of moving parts, but I just wanted to update you on that. Also, we have still not received the additional money that we were supposed to get. We had mentioned that to you on the K5 Plus. Mr. Martinez, as of 5 o'clock today, did you get any new info?
Correct. I have not received any new information on that.
So their wheels are turning too.
I'm sorry, Ms. Price. I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear you, Ms. Price.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay, so PED's wheels are turning too. We basically don't know. I'm just asking. We basically don't know if deadlines are going to be moved.
Thus far, we know that we got the deadline for submitting the budget was moved to December. I'm sorry, June. What did you say, Herman? June 5th? June?
Yeah, the first week of June.
So then, we still have to meet as a subcommittee, as a finance committee. Yes.
Yes, and we have it scheduled for April 16th.
With whatever information we have at that point.
Correct, but we should have the unit value by then, I believe.
You think so? Do you really think so?
Well, tentatively, I mean, if they have a special session, those things can change. And so I do have to say to everyone that, and I told this to the leadership and the principals today, and I will be communicating this to our teachers, we all just have to breathe. We have to just adapt.
Oh, certainly, yes.
And because, but not to get too attached to information, because it sometimes it changes within a half a day. It changes within hours. We can get guidance, and then because of the evolving situation that we find ourselves in, or new guidance from the federal government, things continue to change. And so right now, that's what we know today. We could meet with you on the 16th and have something totally different.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, this is Rudy. I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'd just be interested in the SACs, how the SACs are actually going to report to the principals, and the principals going to report to you all for the budget. So I know you can't answer that, but I'm just interested in that. And then also, I don't know if anybody else is there. I guess there's breaking news that the governor's actually going to announce the extension of the school policy tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning. So just FYI. Thank you.
Thank you. I also wanted to say that the SACs probably will meet virtually like we are, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Superintendent.
I don't have anything else, Madam President.
Okay, yeah, and it looks like it's being reasonably widely reported, as Secretary Garcia brought up now, that the PED is expected to announce an extension to the school closure period on Friday. So we will know more tomorrow, but it sounds like we are not likely to go back to school on April 6th.
I think we can count on that, Madam President.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on this from the board? We are then moving on to advanced planning, and I'll just read this out for the benefit of Vice President Price and Secretary Garcia. We have a board meeting, a regular meeting scheduled for April 7th. We still have a tentative executive session at 4:30 p.m. That would be, I'm guessing, a different technological.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Let me get my pen here. So you're saying April 7th, and it will be a virtual meeting?
I would guess it will be a virtual meeting. Dr. Garcia, do you have a sense as to whether we will need an executive session on April 7th?
I would imagine so. There might be some pending litigation issues. I don't know if there will be other issues. I imagine we would, but I'll know closer to that date.
Yeah,
And
I figured. Okay, April 7th. Okay.
April 7th, we will plan on, at this stage, having an executive session beginning at 4:30 and the regular meeting beginning at 5:30. We will wait for the advice from Dr. Ryan and his team on how the technology will work for that, so stay tuned. There is a CRC meeting scheduled for 6 p.m. on April 8th. That will, I would guess, also need to take place virtually.
Oh, that I have a feeling that would be difficult.
no, it'll be like this meeting, Ms. Price.
I know, but it's a larger group, and yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we've had these Zoom meetings with 100 participants, and believe it or not, you can make it work using the video chat component, and people can call in. It's been working pretty well. The more you do it, you get used to it, I promise you, because there's so much work that has to be done, even though we're in this pandemic, you know, in terms of the planning.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm aware that she has a lot to do. Yes.
Okay, and then we have scheduled on April 16th from noon to 1 p.m. an audit committee meeting. We also have on the 16th at 4 p.m. a study session of the board, but this time the finance subcommittee that's designated as one of our finance subcommittee meetings on the 16th, April 16th at 4 p.m.
Very important meeting, probably, yeah.
Very important meeting. And then I'll just go through April. On April 21st, we have tentatively an executive session at 4:30 and a regular meeting at 5:30. And then on April 30th, we have the tentative study session from 4 to 6 p.m. And that is the time roughly 30 days away when we will look at being explicit about the framework for reinvention and revisiting that after we take a breath and maybe even can discuss some of the ideas then. The rest of the advanced planning meeting is, of course, available in the packet, which is on the sfps.info website. It's been emailed to all board members. Anything else, Dr. Garcia or board members, on advanced planning?
I don't have anything, Madam President.
Madam President, this is Rudy. Just in closing, just want to thank Dr. Garcia and your entire staff, because thank you for all you do, and especially the parents that are out there that are listening, because this is obviously we all know it's troublesome for all of us, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And I want to thank the board. You all have been awesome in supporting us as well. And you've been very patient with me, and I just greatly appreciate and your great ideas and your support and being our eyes and ears on the ground for us. Thank you.
Madam President, Dr. Garcia, I just want to say that I too want to thank you all for all the work you've done. And I was talking to a neighbor at a distance who has 2 kids who go to Acequia Madre. And he said, are the teachers coming back next week? And I said, yes, it's going to be, online, and everybody's going to have to be very patient. And he said, oh my gosh, after this week, I adore teachers and whatever they can. So I think people will be appreciative after having their kids for the week and trying to teach them themselves.
Right.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
That's a great point. And this is Kate Noble. And I've been thinking as we come out of this, there will be so much appreciation for what teachers and educators do that we need to strike while the iron's hot and make sure that we can get, proper pay or at least better pay, because right now the will out there to support and appreciate teachers for what they do, I think has probably never been higher, because a lot of us that are trying to fill the role of teachers aren't doing very well and are realizing what special people it takes.
Right.
Also want to tell teachers to parents and family not to be too hard on themselves. Even we as educators, it's much harder for us to teach our own kids than it is for. So don't be too hard on yourselves, folks. Even we as educators have difficulty with our own children when we try to teach them ourselves.
Well, I also think they're trying to juggle working from home and teaching their kids.
It's the worst of situations, and that's why we just keep going back to this message: be gentle and kind to yourselves and to each other, because it is so hard to be working from home and having a family at home, and heaven forbid that you have someone at home that is ill. And I just ask everyone to please be well and take good care of yourselves and be gentle and kind to each other.
Okay, anything else? Profound comments, thoughts, closing arguments?
I'd like us to share recipes. I'm running out of good ideas.
I just wanted to say, Dr. Garcia, I'm going back to the old tried and true standards, easy stuff like sloppy joes.
That's a good one. I'll have to try that one out.
Yes, sloppy joes and macaroni and cheese and corned beef hash with poached eggs. Easy stuff. Easy comfort food. Meatloaf.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Ryan, Dr. Weaver, for making this work. I'd say it was relatively smooth. A few bumps at the beginning with some of us getting on, but ultimately, we learned it and we will be better at it next time. So much appreciate that among all the other things.
I want to also thank you for that, for saying that. And now I have new glasses. I can actually read. So it makes it easier.
Well, good.
From the community, thank you all.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Packard. Nice to see you. Okay, with that, thanks again, Dr. Garcia. Please let the board know how we can share our appreciation to the staff and team. If there are ways we can support you in all you're doing, it's really impressive to watch. And with that, I think it's safe to say we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Stay well.